This video will walk you through how to set up pay deductions in OnTarget. Pay deductions are found under the payroll category. The Pay Deductions desktop is where you configure deductions to be withheld from paychecks. In order to add a pay deduction, click on Add Pay Deduction. This opens the Pay Deduction Configuration window. First, enter in a description. This should be a description that is consistent with the type of pay deduction. For instance, if this deduction is for health insurance, enter accordingly. Next, select the GL account that the pay deduction should be associated with. This assignment is integration to the general ledger. Every time paychecks are cut, the deductions withheld from the checks will post to the GL based on this link. The next field is Start Delay Days. This is where you can specify the number of days, if any, from either an employee's date of hire or a specified effective date before the deduction will become active. Using the Start Delay Days with an effective date rather than the date of hire is controlled under List Configuration in the Configure desktop in the Payroll Rules menu. So for example, if we didn't want this health insurance to become active until 90 days from either the date of hire or a specified effective date, simply enter 90 into this field. If the deduction is to be withheld as soon as it is assigned to the employee record, enter in 0, as this is a required field. The next section is Tax Subject To. If a particular pay deduction is subject to any of the tax types listed, place a check in the corresponding checkbox. So for a post-tax deduction, all boxes would typically be checked. Calculation method is where you specify the type of calculation to be performed, either by percent or amount. For example, if an employee elects to have 3% withheld for a 401k, then the calculation method would be set as a percent. In this example, for health insurance, it's usually a flat amount that's withheld, so amount would be selected. You can also specify if the deduction is a group health insurance, meaning a company-sponsored plan. Corresponding employer contribution types of percent or amount are selectable as well, based on the employer contribution. Finally, under the Applicable Employees section, specify the eligible employment status or statuses that this particular pay deduction applies to. This deduction will then only be visible at employee records with the selected statuses. Once you have saved the deduction, you will see it in the search grid. If you do not see the search grid, click on Search Pay Deductions. You can filter the search results either by description or GL account number. Now we'll walk through adding the deduction to the employee record. First, you must ensure that you have access to the miscellaneous tabs in the employee record. Click on Configure, Security, Configure Roles to find your role, and then go to the Desktop Security tab. Expand the Employees section and make sure Miscellaneous Deductions is checked. Once that is checked, you may need to log out and log back in if you did not already have access to this tab. From here, you can now navigate to the employee record. Search for the employee that you intend to add the deduction to. Open up the employee record and click on the Miscellaneous Deductions tab. Add in the deduction accordingly. If the payroll rules are set to follow effective date and you need to enter an effective date, enter it here. If the start delay days differ from the default pay deduction definition, enter that here. For this example, I don't need an effective date because this deduction is going to be effective 90 days from the employee's hire date, which is found on the Demographics tab. And this employee has met that 90-day window. Enter in the amount to be withheld. If this deduction is part of an employer-sponsored plan, enter in the employer matching amount. The limit field is typically used for garnishments. Enter in the total dollar amount to be garnished. Once that limit has been met, the deduction will no longer be withheld from the paycheck. The date last taken field will auto-update based on the most recent payroll processing. A maximum deduction percentage or amount can be specified in the next two fields. And finally, if you need to inactivate a particular pay deduction, click Inactive. The deduction will no longer be withheld from any paychecks. Delete is only available for any pay deductions that have never been used or withheld from a paycheck. Should you have any questions, please contact support by going to Options, Support, and Contact Support.